Hi, Assalamualaikum. Today our group will be presenting about ratio analysis for Supermax and also Pharmaniaga. First one is for Supermax. They are leading in manufacture and distribute of rubber glove for medical and industrial gloves. They are one of the largest rubber glove manufacturer in the world with a production capacity of over 35 billion gloves per year. Therefore, for Pharmaniaga, they are involved in the manufacturing, marketing and distributions of wide range of pharmaceutical products including generic drugs, over-the-counter products and medical devices. Pharmaniaga also provides contract manufacturing services for other pharmaceutical companies. Next, this is the main objective for these two companies. We can conclude that they aim to be a leader in the pharmaceutical industry and international pharmaceutical industry, and to continue to expand its presence in the global market through strategic partnerships and also collaborations. Plus, the company aims to provide a high-quality, reliable and cost-effective products to its customers worldwide. Hence, this company promised the company that will be committed to ethical business practices, environmental sustainability, and also community development initiative. And here, this is the people that the one giving directions to the company regarding to anything about the company. They are the board of director for Supermax and also Pharmaniaga.
Let's begin the ratio comparison between Supermax and Pharmaniaga with solvency ratios. Solvency ratios are measured how well a company's cash flow can cover its long-term debt. As we can see on the table, the industry ratio represents the ratio of Pharmaniaga in 2021. The first ratio is the current ratio. Supermax has a higher current ratio compared to Pharma, even though both companies have recorded a current ratio of more than 1, which indicates that the companies have the financial resources to remain solvent in the short term. Still, Supermax has used its asset better than Pharmaniaga. This proves that the Supermax has good cross-sectional compared to Pharma. Next is the quick ratio. Supermax has a greater ratio compared to the industry. Supermax has RM2.17 of liquid asset available to cover each RM1 of its current liability. Meanwhile, Pharmaniaga just only has 24 cents. The cross-sectional for this ratio shows a good sign as Supermax appear to be better short-term financial health in respect to being able to meet its short-term debt requirement. Third ratio is the cash ratio. Pharmaniaga has more current liabilities than cash and cash equivalent, which resulted in its ratio, which recorded only 0.02, indicates that the company has insufficient cash on hand exists to pay off short-term debt compared to Supermax. This ratio also shows the good cross-sectional for the Supermax compared to Pharma. Lastly, net working capital to current liability ratio. Pharmaniaga has just recorded 0.1 of net working capital to current liability ratio compared to Supermax, which has a higher amount of debt ratio, which is 1.39. This ratio also shows the good cross-sectional for the Supermax compared to Pharma. Supermax 5-year time series analysis can be considered okay, as all ratios experienced a consistent increase from 2019 to 2021, although the company experienced a decline in 2018 compared to 2017. What can be concluded is, overall, Supermax is much better compared to Pharmaniaga because Supermax is able to meet its long-term debt obligation and its cash flow is sufficient.
For efficiency ratios, it helps the company to measure a company's ability to use its assets to generate income. The first one is average collection period. Compared with industry, Supermax has the highest days taken, which is 39 days, meanwhile Pharmaniaga only took 18 days. The cross-sectional shows a good sign since it's below than 40 days. Thus, the time series for the 5 years is okay since the days taken are decreasing from 2017 to 2021. For inventory turnover, Supermax has a better ratio in 2021, 13.18 times compared to the industry, only 3.81 times. This shows the cross-sectional for Supermax is good and the time series is okay, meaning here Supermax utilizes its inventories efficiently. The third is receivable turnover. Supermax only manage to turn their receivables 9.23 times compared to Pharmaniaga 19.64 times. This shows the cross-sectional between companies is bad. As for the time series for the 5 years, indicates that Supermax is still variable, which is fluctuating. Last but not least, for fixed asset turnover, the cross-sectional between Supermax and industry, Pharmaniaga, is bad since Pharmaniaga managed to get 7.59 times, highest than Supermax 4.45 times only. However, the time series for the 5 years is okay since year by year, the ratio is increasing. The last one is total asset turnover. For 5 years, it shows Supermax ratios are below than 1, resulting in a warning time series and a bad cross-sectional result. As compared to Pharmaniaga, they managed to get 2.113 times for the year 2021. In essence, it can be concluded that Supermax efficiency ratios are moderate. An improvement must be taken as it indicates that a company is not good at managing their assets and liabilities.
Next, we will move on to financial leverage ratio. Financial leverage ratio is the strategy and endeavor of borrowing money to invest in assets. The goal is to have the return on those assets exceeds the cost of borrowing funds that pay for those assets. We move to the ratio comparison. For the first comparison is the total debt ratio. Supermax is better than Pharmaniaga because in 2021, the total debt ratio of Supermax is 0.34 while Pharmaniaga is 0.79. Pharmaniaga have higher risk and may discourage investment. For the second ratio, the debt equity ratio, Pharmaniaga is better than Supermax because in 2021, the debt equity ratio of Pharmaniaga is 0.36, meanwhile for Supermax is 0.51. Pharmaniaga has the lower ratio than Supermax, indicates Pharmaniaga is generally less risky than Supermax. For the third ratio, for equity ratio, both companies have a good equity ratio where it's about 0.5 or 50%. It means they more outright ownership in the business than debt. In this ratio, Pharmaniaga shows the better ratio than Supermax because the value is higher, which is 2.17 compared to 0.66. For the fourth ratio, long-term debt ratio, Supermax has the lowest long-term debt to asset ratio than Pharmaniaga, where 0.01 compared to 0.14. In this situation, Pharmaniaga has a relative high degree of risk and eventually it may not be able to repay its debt. For the last ratio, which is time interest earn ratio, an organization that has a time interest earn ratio of less than 2.5 are considered a much higher risk for bankruptcy. Based on the ratio comparison, ratio of Supermax and Pharmaniaga have less than 2.5, where are 1.29 and 1.41 respectively. That means both companies has the higher of risk to bankruptcy. Thank you.
So the last ratio is profitability ratios. Profitability ratios helps measure and evaluate a company's ability to generate income. So the first ratio is gross profit margin. Based on the gross profit margin ratio of Supermax in 2021, which is 0.22 compared to Pharmaniaga, which is 0.88. This shows that Supermax are not generating strong sales relative to the cost of goods sold. So next is the net profit margin ratio, which shows the sales revenue a company keeps after converting all of its costs, including interest and taxes. So based on the net profit margin ratio for Supermax in 2021 is 0.54, which is higher than Pharmaniaga, which is 0.04. So this shows Supermax gained more income compared to Pharmaniaga. So as for the third ratio is the return on total assets, which measures a company's earnings before interest and taxes, known as EBIT, relative to its total assets. So in 2021, Supermax has a higher ratio at 0.53 compared to Pharmaniaga, which is 0.09. So this shows Supermax are effectively using their assets. So the last ratio is the return on equity, which is considered as a gauge of corporation profitability and how efficient is in generating profits. In 2021, Supermax has a high ratio of 0.80 compared to Pharmaniaga, which is at 0.04. This shows that Supermax are better at converting its equity financing into profits. Thank you.